So welcome to the Real Men Don't Play show. And we're going to get right into it. To my immediate right is a sister. Real men don't play, but there's some sisters that understand that. Say hello to Sharita Herring. How you doing this evening, Sharita?
I am amazing. I'm amazing, especially sitting here next to you.
Well, we done that before. Okay, but we're going to do like the theme says. Brothers going to work it out.
Yeah.
And we get to look at that beautiful smile when we get it right. And that's what this show is about tonight. We're going to get it right.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're more than welcome. You earned that spot because you know me. I don't play that.
I know.
All right, so you're going to earn your spot all night long. This sister's incredible. Tell them a little bit about what you do real quickly.
Well, I've helped to raise over $30 million in funding. That's why that song was so perfect. We've developed over 600 organizations that are operating all over the world, and I'm here today to hear what everyone's talking about and show where they can get the money.
But what did you do for me as a man and a brother and a friend?
Well, okay. Well, we've been friends.
No, we just made it to that point because I was hunting you like I hunt, But
I can't believe
what did
you're
you
going
do?
to say that on there.
It's too late. It's out there.
I've been your friend. I mean, you, Bobby, just like when your book came out, and I asked you, do you have a PowerPoint? Do you have some information to take with you? And so I just wanted to step in and do what I could to help you present yourself when you were traveling all over the country. So.
Well, let's go to work by me and Mr. Leon Gar.
Yeah.
But I'm speaking specifically of who you introduced me to.
Oh, well, a dear friend of mine, Bootsy Collins, and I knew that you guys would really resonate well, but you've done the same. I mean, you introduced me to Jim Brown, and we just do that back and forth, but that's what people should do. It doesn't happen enough.
Well, the person that we are featuring tonight in our community business profile, Sharita had the pleasure of seeing him in a different element, and he'll be back on our show in future segments to get into that part of it. But if you would, tell them what you know about Julian Xochiteotzin Mendoza.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I've sat in a few of his programs that out there at, is it Warren School?
Downey, yeah, Warren High School in Downey, California.
To look at him, I mean, he just looks like this really calm, withdrawn kind of a fella. But there's so much underneath. I mean, for one, in sitting in that class and just seeing how he changes the lives and brings out so much of these young people, things that they wouldn't share with anyone else. He does magic in that classroom. But then I even went to his site and I've seen the magic that he does with his hands. His artwork is absolutely phenomenal. So I can't wait for everyone to hear what he has to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, this man has been my friend and an inspiration for over 20 years. And for about 15, I didn't know what his other gift from God was. For those of you old enough or have seen enough rerun movies, there was a movie called American Me that starred James Olmos, who also directed it. And Julian was a consultant on that film. And at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to say hello to my friend and my brown brother, Julian Xochiteotzin Mendoza. How you doing, Julian?
I'm doing good, Bobby.
Hey, pronounce that.
Oh, I'm wonderful, wonderful. It's good to have you on the line.
Hey, pronounce that middle name properly, man. You know I done butchered it.
It's Xochiteotzin.
You're going to say that 3 times.
It's kind of hard. It's pronounced Xochiteotzin.
And what's the origin and the purpose of you making sure that that's in the middle of the Julian and the Mendoza?
Well, that's my original language. That's the original language of the brown people of this continent. And part of my journey was to understand who I was, and I realized that speaking English is a necessity. Speaking Spanish was something we were forced to do. But we had an original language that was spoken, all over the Southwest, all the way up to Oregon, and that's our original language that we spoke for many, many years. And I'm rediscovering and recovering our customs. I recovered a name. That particular name means the last born son, and in my family, I'm the last born son.
Speaking of your family, some people would refer to your family as Chicano. And your personal evolution has took you in a route where you have connected ancestrally to whom?
Well, the Mexica people. The origin is the Mexica people, which most people commonly pronounce Mexican, but we're the Mexica people. That's what we call ourselves. The history books called us Aztecs, in Mayan, but we call ourselves Mexica.
Well, the segment of the program that you participate in is called the Community Business Profile. Because in addition to working for Jim Brown's American program for over 20 years and then spreading your wings and flying in a much broader direction, you have always very quietly been doing another thing. And the people can actually see a picture that you drew with a pencil. And I still can't believe that. So tell them a little something about Fleet Line Fine Art.
Yeah, I've always been, drawn, and art has probably been one of the most healing things in my life through some of my life struggles, and it's always been a part of my life. And the last, I would say, maybe 20, 25 years, I've taken it a little bit more serious. And even though I've been underground with people like you and that encouraged me to continue to paint, and some of my family that does that, eventually it got on the internet, and it was a little harder to stay underground. So, part of the artwork that I do kind of is a reflection of the Chicano experience in L.A. and a little bit of my history and the history of my people, and, combination of those things.
How widely are you recognized as a preeminent artist?
I don't know about that, Bobby. I know you're very kind with your words, and I know, there's some people that are into my art, and, art's like music, and there's no such thing as bad art or good art. It's just different, and some people are into the type of art that I do, and those people happen to live in different places around the world, and I look at it like that, especially with the internet, and, it got around a little quicker than I expected, but, I really couldn't answer that for you. It's just that, I have some people that are into my art are close by and around the block and around the world. Explain
to our listening audience an experience you had a few years ago where a Japanese gentleman, I think it was, traveled from Japan, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, a while back, and it's still kind of strong, not the movement that it was, but, 15, 20 years ago, the Chicano movement and the curiosity behind that was kind of worldwide in the lowriding community, and whether there was some, there was a lot of interest, and the Japanese people that I met were really into what was happening in L.A., and part of what, it's hard to be into what is happening in L.A. without understanding the Chicano culture, and they embraced it, and part of embracing the culture was embracing the cars and the music and eventually the art. And they came down here, and we had a pretty good relationship, a business relationship and a friendship, and they took my art and kind of exposed, that part of Asia with my art. And there is a small subculture in Japan that is heavily into the Chicano art and the Mexica culture, and they collect the cars, the art, and the music, and anything they can. And part of my art was one of many artists that they collect, I'm sure.
So, Julian, what are you doing presently with this talent and gift that you possess?
Well, currently, I had to put things on hold a little bit. I have two very ill parents, so very difficult to put a lot. My art, there's a lot of emotion in my art, and I've had to put that on hold. But through that, I have recently, a couple of years ago, got married, and now my inspiration for my latest paintings I'm doing a series of my wife, and she's been a big inspiration in the work that I do. She did some print work, and I met her through my artwork, and I met her through her print work, and we got together because of the painting I was doing of her. And right now I'm doing some cultural things using her as my inspiration and my subject. So when things smooth out a little bit, family-wise, and my parents are getting close to the end of their journey, so I'm focusing on them right now. And I always tell my family, when the time is right, I'm going to paint a lot more, and with the help of my wife, and maybe get out there more and do something, hit it a little harder for us business-wise and art-wise.
Before I move on with the rest of the show, tell my listening audience what connected us. How did we meet?
Well, we met through Jim Brown's American program. I was with Jim for over 20 years, and through them I met a lot of great people. And I remember physically, technically or physically connected with you at an event we had at a park. And we spoke, and one thing turned into another. We had a little history lesson out there, and you were very, very curious about, about me and the history, and that's how we met. It was many years ago, but it was through the work we did and the circles you sat in that I've done, and that's how we met and continue to connect. And you've always been a huge supporter of my work within those circles and my artwork, and you've kept in touch, and you've been a huge support with the challenges I've been going through with my family, as far as the illness and stuff. So we met through there, and you've connected, and you've continued to connect with me over the years.
So as we wrap this up, Julian, can you tell people how to go and see your work?
Well, right now, the only place you can really see it, because, like I said, I'm not doing many shows like I was. But so the Fleetline fineart.com would probably be the best way to view it, and eventually I'll put more effort into presenting it, presenting my new pieces. But I have some of my old stuff there, some of my recent stuff, and hopefully in the near future there'll be a lot more recent stuff.
Well, Julian, I'm going to have you in studio when your schedule will permit, because your story is documented in my book, Real Men Don't Play, and even that is only a scratch of the surface. Now, I appreciate you taking time away from what you do 7 days a week. You go to work, you take care of your beloved mother and father. How long have they been married?
They've been together for over 65 years,
Wow.
My dad's a World War II veteran, and after the war, they got together, and then they got married. So, a total of a little over 65 years, and I'm blessed to still have them, but they're struggling right now. And when I'm not working, me and my wife, my sister are with them pretty much all the time. My mom suffers from advanced Alzheimer's, so we can't keep an eye on her. I'm over here in the room, and my wife's literally sitting right next to my mom, so I could do this interview. But it's one of those things that I feel fortunate that I'm around to do this with her and for her. And this is going to pass soon, and she'll be resting soon. And I know that me and my family are going to feel that we did the best we could, and I'm trying on a daily basis to keep it together. But I appreciate you having me on, and I'm looking forward to cutting out a little chunk of time where I can go down there and visit you, man.
Man, as we close out, I want everybody listening tonight and in the future to know this man is one of the most beautiful human beings I have yet to know. Yeah. And it's an honor and a privilege to say that he's a friend for life. Ladies and gentlemen, Julian, say that middle name, because I can't do that, man.
Xochiteotzin.
Xochiteotzin. It don't spell like that, brother.
Yeah, it does. That language, the Nahuatl language, the Aztec language, spells different than we're used to speaking it. But I got you, man. I really appreciate it, and thank you for all your kind words and your support over the years, man.
Bobby, before he leaves, I'd just like to let him know that the Endowment for the Arts, I know that your time is limited, but they released over $25.8 million for artists like yourself. But also, Julian, there's so much money available, and this is for everyone listening. Caregivers give a lot of their time, and there's a lot of grants that can help to cover what you and your wife are doing alone. And that's why I thank you, Bobby, for letting me be on shows like this so that I can let people know that there's things out there that dollars they could be getting.
Okay.
I appreciate that. And I'm going to keep in touch with Bobby, and I know he's in touch with you. That helps me, man. I'm telling you, just speaking to you guys for the short time, I feel good, man. And I go out there right now and take care of my mother with the energy that you guys give me. And some days are hard, and today was one of those days. And after talking to you, and I appreciate what you just said, Shalita, that all that will help me, man. I'm going to go take care of my mom for the rest of the night with a little bit more energy now. I appreciate it.
You deserve it, because you give so much to so many. Thank you so much for coming on the Real Men Don't Play show. And as always, Julian, I'm honored by your presence, and God bless you in all that you endeavor.
Thank you again, Bobby. You take care, man.
All right.
And look forward to seeing you again.
We're going to take...
Me too. We will.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, and then we're coming back with the theme for this evening, which is the economics of self-determination, and we have in the building models of possibility. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back to the Real Men Don't Play show. There's a gentleman that's in camera right now who has been taking meticulous notes, because he is an extraordinary man, because he is what he looked like. He black as the ace of spades, smart as they come. But more importantly, He has used his talents to enrich people, including me. For those of you who follow me on Facebook, this man has put big head hundreds in my hand and not missed them at all. And what's so important about that, when Jim Brown was on my show, the very first segment, he said something that needs to resonate with all of us. He said, you can't lead people if you can't feed people. The brother I'm about to introduce right now has fed more families than Carter got liver pills. So without any further ado, because he's got to get out of here and get back on the grind, because he has offices in 5 cities, Las Vegas, San Diego, Los Angeles, Baton Rouge, and Atlanta, GA. And I'm so happy that this brother took a few minutes of his very precious time to come and support what I do. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Wendell Stimley, the CEO of Black IPO. Welcome to the Real Men Don't Play show.
Thanks for having me.
I didn't have no choice, you know that.
Okay.
So basically, Wendell, tell them quickly a little bit about yourself, because you don't like doing that, but I'll forget. It's so much stuff, but just concentrate on some of the things that you have accomplished in the last 5 years.
Oh, well, we have an engineering and construction management firm that we specialize in financing projects, building out projects, and moving projects to the next level. At the same time, we have a deep commitment to local communities. And I find that we need to have our people more empowered in growth and expansion of their businesses. We have to appreciate the mom and pop startup, but we have to start with an idea of how to expand this business into a national corporation. And I think that's going to be very important for the new millennium.
Well, let's talk about some of the things that you have done. As I said earlier, one of your offices is in San Diego. You had a groundbreaking, history-making project in Southeast San Diego, which is the Black community. Can you explain a little bit about what you did and the impact it had on the local community economically?
Well, I mean, we have the Lincoln High School project,
Not
which
that
is
one.
the crown jewel of the educational component, which is very important, a $108 million project that we were able to do with the Barnhart Corporation. But a unique project we found that we were able to work on was the Market Creek Plaza. Was an interesting project, as though it had a community-based IPO funded the project. And for the first time, you had the people actually that were the consumers actually having ownership in the project at the Food for Less and the Wells Fargo, et cetera, being tenants to that project. So that's a unique concept that we need to look at expanding on. We have to understand, everyone wants to do community redevelopment, and especially for the African American community. But that in itself is only giving you the ability to have a prettier building to shop in, or prettier goods and services, but it's bringing no capital for you to have ownership of those businesses. And what you want to be able to do is force the powers that be. Under all of these mega mergers, we're supposed to have community redevelopment, access to capital, not to just be able to consume, but to actually have ownership. So I challenge the young people to start a business, but also start that business with the idea of how to make that business a national-based business that grows beyond what you can see today. You need to have a plan for expansion to where it becomes a national corporation. And we need that, just like we've been able to accomplish that in the entertainment industry, in the fashion industry, but we need to develop that in the grassroots.
Now, you had another very important model of possibility here in Los Angeles, over in the Watts community. Can you go into what you accomplished that was unprecedented?
Well, what I really liked about the Martin Luther King Hospital project with Hansel Phelps here in Los Angeles is that they had a disadvantaged worker program, and that means that 10% of the workforce that was used to build that hospital had to be in some way disadvantaged, being re-entering the workplace, homeless, or could have previous some type of legal problem.
Ex-offenders or something?
In addition to. So to be able to give 10% of that workforce employment in that community was very enlightening. And when we talk about giving work, we're talking about jobs at $40 and $50 an hour. We're not talking minimum wage level work. We're talking prevailing wage level of work. And we have to start bringing those type of work opportunities to our communities. It is unprecedented the amount of federal projects, housing projects that go build into our community where we're supposed to be able to have local workers from the local community employed, and we're not asking for those jobs.
Now, on that project and others, because I want to go into the Watts project after you answer this direct question, what role did you play as a construction manager? Were you working out of somebody else's pocket, or what were you handling on that project?
Well, we handled all the on-site infrastructure for the build-out of the project. And Hansel Phelps, the general contractor, handled all the vertical construction for the hospital project.
That's a little bit too technical even for me. Who wrote the checks, payroll checks?
Well, I write my own payroll checks, and they, the general contractor, the construction manager, you all have to carry your own weight. You have to write your own checks to staff your people to complete the project.
How many people did you have working on that project that you wrote checks for?
Out of the local community, we had about 23 people actually working on the project.
Now, let's rewind a few years to the project you did in Watts.
Okay.
And walk us through how you did something that had never been done in this city and in very few cities around the country.
Well, I was able to meet a lovely lady named Miss Nora King. And for those of you from Watts, the Nicholson Garden Project, Miss Nora King was the resident manager type person. And she had some housing development that needed some matching funds, and we were able to come in and help match those funds to get that project.
We meaning you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get that project going, and built the relationship with the Watts community, and luckily been there for now almost 15 years.
Well, just 1 second. It's something that he's leaving out. See, people need to understand how I market this show. I said I'm bringing in studio folks that feed people and tell them the impact that had. What was your labor pool? Who were the people that you hired at prevailing wage?
Oh, the labor pool were the young men that lived in Nicholson Gardens. And I found different than what people would lead you to believe. If you put prevailing wage, $35, $40 an hour jobs in a community, you will have a line out of the door of people that want to apply and take those jobs and do a good job. The idea that folks don't want to work, folks want to work, they just want to work for a livable wage.
Now, in addition to hiring people that had never made that kind of money, matter of fact, had never had a job in many instances, a lot of people thought it was going to be impossible to complete that job because of theft, vandalism, intimidation, robbery. How did you get around the problem that is oftentimes associated with doing work in the inner city?
Well, knock on wood, I haven't had an experience of people making livable wages in a good job to where you have outside elements that can stop that job from being successful. Matter of fact, the community a lot of times will embrace the project to where it's almost like sacred ground. So you don't have the, contrary to what people on the outside that never come in wouldn't understand, that you don't have that element.
Did you have a question?
Well, I was just going to say, with all of what he's saying and all of the wonderful things that he's doing, we need to report our own news and not always let someone report the bad news, because he's literally changing lives. And one of the reasons why they don't bother the site is they realize that he's taking them out of the working poor, and they're not even going to let anyone else come in and mess that up. But we've got to start reporting that.
Start?
More often, because how many people knew this? And so, we've got to stop expecting someone else to tell our news and start reporting our own news.
Well, the reason I'm blessed to be able to be one of those people, if you go to www.realmendon'tplay news blog, I did a feature on Wendell about a year ago. And you're absolutely right. We can't sell a secret, and we have to control the narrative. Mm-hmm. Wendell, the other side of your brilliance is finance. And there's a project that you have initiated that can be a game changer. It's the same as the title of your company and the title of the book that we are collaborating on. Can you speak a little bit about Black IPO from the financial perspective?
Well, the whole idea of Black IPO was to have a way to finance any project you wanted to do, no matter, not be limited by the size of the project. The problem we have a lot of time is information. We are lacking in getting the right information. I'll give you an example. The Community Reinvestment Act, and after the collapse of the banking industry and the bailouts, provided over $1 billion for minority and women business based on the Federal Reserve as part of the Dodd-Frank part of that bailout. And nobody got the word out to even go and try to attract that level of participation or that capital that was supposedly there for us. So what we need to do a better job of, and what Black IPO hopefully will help get the word out, is always understand where the money is. Always be able to follow the capital and never look at business as though you have to limit yourself to not being a national or international corporation, because it just takes a lot of hard work and it takes finding the right information.
Now, there's an ex-football player named Cleveland Gary. He played at the University of Miami, and I don't remember what professional team he played for. Mm-hmm. He broke the mold in terms of not being a dumb jock. Can you explain how your principles and your expertise benefited a vision that he had economically?
Well, Cleveland and I met at the Small Cap Investment Bankers Conference in New York, and he was pitching an idea for the Black Shopping Network, which I thought was an excellent idea, online with QVC and some of the others, and it I think now it's on Time Warner Channel 88. So that type of thinking, that type of expansive growth thinking is going to get us to create superstars in the business world, just like we've had our stars in the entertainment business. And it's a new phenomenon, and we're going to keep pushing. You know, we all come out of the old hip-hop era, so we look at life as staying on the grind.
Now, one final point, and he's going to be back many, many times as this show evolves and expands. Many of us over the years have often said, why is it that when people in the entertainment and sports community become successful, there's no financial benefit to the African-American community? Real quickly, show how you broke the mold with a project you did with Jay-Z in I think was it New York or Las Vegas?
Well, Las Vegas. I mean, we were in Las Vegas doing a city center development job, and luckily we just finished being part of the Diego's improvement for MGM. and the opportunity came about to work on the 40/40 Club. And, you know, we need those type of owners that have a commitment to inclusion and collaborate so we can work on either in our own projects that come out of our own networks and our own communities. And that's really the beauty of the younger, the hip-hop generation is not so shut out as in the past. I guess in the 60s or earlier, it was not a lot of as much collaboration as it is today.
Now, one final thing, give people the foundation upon which you built your business career. Where did you go to college and beyond?
Oh, Southern University, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Love it. Always been there for me. Good foundation. Took some advanced engineering at LSU and took my business training at Dartmouth College.
Dartmouth, that's one of the Ivy League schools.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Southern's my heart.
Okay, all right. And that's important because the ice is no colder
And
at Dartmouth than it is at Southern. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have appreciated the information this model of possibility has given us this evening. And don't worry, you're going to see a lot more of him and his leadership because he feeds people. So thank you, Wendell, man, for stopping by, man, because I know you don't even really like doing this kind of stuff, man.
Well, Bobby, now, you know, he's leaving, but I'm chopping at the bit. He was talking about information, and again, just on January 17th, $600 million is called the Tiger Program that the president signed, and it's for construction and manufacturing jobs. And people can see that, and I'd like to get the information to you also. It's the Tiger Project, and it's at .gov/Tiger.
We need a combination of the money that we're entitled to from federal and state and local and private money, and we need this man here who worked very hard, saved his money, and put it back in people who look like us. So thank you, Wendell, for your example and for coming in here tonight. We're going to take a short pause, and then we're going to keep it moving. We'll be right back. All right, we're black and back. I have to my immediate right Miss Sharita Herring. And Sharita, we're going to take a second to just, let people know how it's possible for a brother and a sister with their own appeal and attraction, animalistically, to subdue that attraction for the better good.
Oh, you're going there.
Look here. Y'all can't really see what made me chase this woman. All right. And what she did was treat me like a man who she felt, if she gave the right indication to, would respect those boundaries and still admit, but for, we might do this. She saw that there was more that we could do. And the help that I've got from this sister has been worth not yielding to, probably a rape case or a date rape or something like that, 'cause, y'all know how we get out of control when we see a sister, that's packing.
Sometimes, Bobby, you got to realize that instead of getting into a relationship with someone or even messing around with them, it's better to have a long-term friendship, and there's a whole lot more you can make happen. So, but I didn't know you were going to get all this.
Well, look, I'm proud of that because we wouldn't have been on television right now. We'd be somewhere doing that O.J. song, 992 Arguments, because age is important. I'm so blessed that I got past. I met you at a time in my life where I really wanted to get to know women.
Yeah.
I will never understand y'all because I'm not from your planet. And that's why I had to write this book, Real Men Don't Play, because a lot of us got caught up in consumption.
Yeah.
And we forgot what we were put on this planet for. Now, as opposed to the hunter that I was, the man that we're getting ready to introduce you to has been happily married so long that when I started the Real Men Club, his wife told me I was going to end up like Indian Archie, West Indian Archie, from the movie Malcolm X, because she put it on this brother. And he gave it back by becoming the man I someday want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I've known this man for over 30 years. When I first met him, I didn't really meet him. I would drive around San Diego. I just got out of the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
and I was trying to decide whether I was going to stay in San Diego or not, because it's a different kind of city.
Uh-huh.
A lot of money, but not in the hands of people who look like me. And he was running a company called ARH Construction, which was his initials. And I kept seeing these signs all over the black community. And there was a lot of building going on in the early 80s,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And I was like, wow. And then one day I actually saw him. And he had a cell phone that would give the average person a hernia, right? And then he had workers
What year
who
was
had
that,
those
Bobby,
cells.
about?
That was about 83,
Oh, okay.
84.
Okay. Well, he was cool. He had a cell phone.
No, he was rolling.
Yeah.
That brother had a huge company, and they was making money hand over fist.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I just knew him from a distance up until about 1988.
Uh-huh.
I saw an article in the local paper, the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint, and in the San Diego Union. There was a huge project called the Clean Water Project that was based on the Clean Water Act.
Mm-hmm.
And they was projecting they was going to spend back then over $1 billion across the country, making sure that our water supply was safe and proper. And it just so happened that they were also implementing the affirmative action was in play at the time, and they had mandated that black people had to work on these projects. And the more I heard about him and saw him out protesting, stopping jobs that didn't have black people on them, I became curious. So I read an article that said that the city was looking at rejecting a $10 million contract, which was a lot of money at the time. And they was having a public hearing. And I called this brother up, and because I talk fast and sound like I might be just hustling, he blew me off because he's,
Sound like you
big
might
shot,
be?
And so we went to the same thing. And he came in there, and he spoke passionately about the fact that black people had a right to work. He was working, representing the black contractors.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, I was representing the hustle.
Mm-hmm.
When we left out of there, both of our lives changed. So without any further ado, I want to go to Abdur Rahim Hamid and his queen, the woman that has been by his side for nearly 30 years, Sister Janice Hamid. Welcome to the Real Men Don't Play show.
Thank you, Bobby. First of all, let me thank you for all the work that you've done and the lives that you've changed. You boasted the success of others and what we have done in terms of our commitment, but it's people like you that get our message out there and share the word.
So what about your history? Why are you a history maker? What have you done in conjunction with your wife and the mission that you've been on for over 30 years? Speak a little bit about the National Black Contractors Association and the organization that you founded before that, the San Diego Black Contractors Association.
At a very young age, as a master builder, coming out of being inspired by the Black Power movement, learning our history and our heritage, that we were great builders of civilization, I was inspired because of the lack of opportunity that was being given in the black community when churches became affluent and bankers basically had gave them marching orders not to hire black contractors and black workers. And this was offensive to me and my colleagues, and that's how we started the Black Contractors Association. I basically, at 25 years old, got with some of my mentors and peers and basically said the dog wasn't going to hunt. So we picketed the churches, got to the pastors, found out what the real problem was, and then we took those jobs back for our community. And at that time, it was my vision and inspiration to establish the Black Contractors Association of San Diego. And what that did was there were some tools that had to be in place. We were being locked out of the labor trades that have left our community. And because of nepotism and what have you, they were no longer recruiting African Americans from the inner city. So one of the things that we did in realizing that in order for us to work on public contracting projects, we had to be indentured, registered apprentice through the state of California. So at that time, that was just about the time I had met you, Bobby. And my wife and I and a few other of our colleagues got together and met with Mr. Johnson, who was with the state of California, and we wrote the program for the Inner City Unilateral Apprenticeship Committee. unbeknownst to us, this would be America's first and only, and still today, state-recognized African American administered apprenticeship program that allows us to walk into public contracting and registered our apprentices to work at apprenticeable wages to graduate to become journeymen. And many of them, have inspired to be contractors, superintendents, and project managers. So that's how we got our start. We basically, and so with that being said, there was a city councilman that, they called him Shaka, and he was out of the 60s, George Luther Stevens, who heard our cry and our need. And there was a gentleman that, Mr. Ramsar, may rest in peace, heard that we had an apprenticeship program accredited, and he had an old gas station that had contaminated soil on 61st and Imperial. It was 3/4 of an acre. And he knocked on the door and said, I heard you're going to be teaching inner city youth. And what can I do to help? He says, I got a service station down there. I can donate this service station to you. And you can use it as the building to put your tools and things and use the outside to train on. I said, sir, we'll take that because we don't have anything as it is right now. My company was thriving, AL Metals. We were doing $6 million a year, and I had 150 guys working for me. We were framers primarily, but we did a lot of infills and custom housing and so forth. So with that, to make a long story short, we established the apprenticeship program. The land was donated, and I went to George Luther Stevens, and I asked George for $1 million of the Community Development Block Grant. And there was a super fund that allowed you to clean up contaminated soil. So we wrote a grant, and we were able to obtain $1.5 million to build a state-of-the-art 10,000 square foot edifice with computer labs, construction labs, office incubation suites, and etc. And the rest is history.
Well, that's
Very nice building too.
Who said that?
Beautiful building. I was down there.
What impact have you had on the lives of people who live in Southeast San Diego in particular by starting the National Black Contractors Association?
Well, Bobby, what we're witnessing today, because not only did we, my wife, and as you say, my queen, who is really my partner, my friend for life, and have been there for 28 years, and it's only seemed like it's been yesterday, So one of the things that we had did with establishing the apprenticeship program, we realized that we didn't want to trip and fail. We didn't want to have people that think they want to do construction. They get out there and they realize it's hard work. It's dirty picking shovel, wheelbarrow carrying, sweat work, and you make, at the beginning, you don't make as much money as you do in the end. These are $45 hour jobs once you master your trade and your craft. But in the beginning, you're starting out above at a livable wage of $14 to $17 an hour. So in establishing the apprenticeship program, we realized that we needed a tool that will help us succeed. And this program is a national model. So we went after the then Department of Urban Housing Development, HUD, and we received a grant for $1 million to train inner city youth. So we've trained hundreds of young people who got their fell out of high school and needed high school diplomas or GEDs, and we introduced them to a pre-apprenticeship program called Youth Build. And Youth Build has become a model. We have one of the best programs in the state of California, and if not in the nation, recognized by HUD on several occasions, Mr. Ray Richardson, who continuously funded the program. We have just recently acquired a grant now through the Department of Labor. And that Youth Build program allowed us to take 64 young people who dropped out of school, improve on literacy, prevent the recidivism from going back into those who came out of jail or institutions, stop them from going back to prison. And that's really what we have. We have a Youth Build program, and that program is a pre-apprenticeship program, and there's several other tools that we have.
You did something out of the box about 4 or 5 years ago. You integrated the American Life Management Skills curriculum in it. And I'd like for Jan to speak to that because she administered that program.
Oh, wonderful.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Janice Hampton Hamid.
Hi, everybody out there. How you all are doing? Well, I had been the program manager for the Youth Build I'm also the director of education and training for the BCA. And about 5 years ago, in one of our youth build programs, I incorporated the American program. It was Bobby Glanton-Smith, Bo Taylor, and Rockhead Johnson that brought it to our program. They were the ones that brought the American to our program. And it was a very interesting experience. Those young people who took that curriculum, to this day, those same young people, I think it was at that time it was about 25 for each cohort, and I think, well, total of 50 young people, 25 first and second cohort, which they had did the training. And just to see the outcome, the success of that program, and how the young people today, this is 5 years later, 6 years later, they're very successful. And we took that same program, every youth build that we ran, we used the American curriculum. I was trained by the three gentlemen I previously announced, and so now today with my American Youth Build sponsored by DOL, this is the first DOL, Department of Labor grant that we've gotten since then, and this grant we use it for 64 students, and I was able to facilitate for the first time alone, and looking at the success of it, just wonderful.
Okay, thank you so much. We're getting close to the close of the show. What is the vision for the National Black Contractors Association going forward?
No, Bobby, and I want to say thanks to Jim Brown for bringing that American curriculum to the National Black Contractors Association as a great model. And Jim has personally come down on a number of occasions and met with our young people. So I want to thank Jim, give a shout out to Jim. Going forward, in 2008, we solidified disenfranchised black contractors across the country who were working in a vacuum. And we established the National Black Contractors Association, to which I'm the president of. And we have a model program, which is a state-of-the-art training facility, which we're doing in Tennessee. And we've got a chapter in Carolinas. We got 17 chapters in 5 states. And so going forward, what we have done is, you know, we're not hand-in-hand Negroes that go out and ask for opportunities. We are developing people like Wendell Stimley, who's hiring other African-American contractors and fostering relationships with the Barnharts and the Clarks and the Turners and the Nielsen Dillinghams and the major corporate sponsored contractors who have an obligation to be inclusive. We are the panacea, you know, when it comes down to models of possibility. So we're going to be commemorating and celebrating phenomenal women in construction, very much like the great queens of Africa who built great civilization. These women have built millions and billions of dollars worth of work, and we're going to be showcasing them this year. And I thank you for the connection, the Hollywood connection, and many of the friends that you brought to the BCA and in our relationship, and my brother from another mother for over 20 plus years.
Thank you for coming on the show, and believe me, you will be back, because what's important for us to say before we close out tonight, there's got to be a multi-pronged approach to self-determination and providing opportunity for people to feed themselves and their families. Everybody's not college material, and we've got to get our young people that are not going to college to look at the construction industry as a pathway to self-determination. And I hope tonight we've given you a couple of examples. And before we close out, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Sharita and tell us some of the things that you're doing and how your life is unfolding at this exciting stage.
Well, I didn't bring very much to talk about me tonight. I just wanted to tell them about some of the grants, but we don't have to do that. We recently launched a program called The Big Project, and it's bridging individuals globally. And that's where we are, for organizations that didn't know the grants were there. You can be a for-profit, non-profit, individual, whatever. We're collaborating these groups and everyone, and then we're going after grants together. across the country and all over the world. So that's the big project. And they can see that on my website at kifoundation.org. That's kifoundation.org. And you'll see, go to the big project. And then we send out free grant information weekly because like he was saying, and even Brother Hamid, there's so much money that still goes back every year, even in this economy and even in the worst of the economy over the past few years. Millions of grants go back every year because people just don't know. So they can get connected on my website at kifoundation.org.
I done got caught slipping. I can't find a copy of my book that everybody in this studio has contributed in one way or another of producing. So go to my website, realmendon'tplay.com, and support the work that I do. Brother Hamid is featured in a chapter where we talk about the impact that he has had on lives all over the country. We want to thank everybody that's listening and tell your friends it might be something at rmconlive.com worth checking out. And I want to thank our producer for this evening. This brother flies in from Phoenix, Arizona every week to give us a shot at giving people news they can use. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for letting me be myself 4 weeks in a row. Good night, and God bless everybody out there. We out.